Okay, now I'm going to show you the behavior, the controllers associated with the views. So basically the controllers are programmed, are defined here below in this part. Okay, right? And the controllers, what they do is that they change the model, so the information that is there. And by changing the model, when the model is changed, the view refreshes automatically and changes. Of course, to trigger controllers to change the model, you have actions in the view, like for instance, like this click new activity that actually triggers the controller that changes the model that changes the view. For instance, in that case, when I do this, that's it. It changed. Okay. So what happened here? Just out of curiosity. So when I do new activity, look, I have this button. The button is there. And when I do new activity, so when I click, as I invoke this code basically changes two variables. So it creates an empty activity and says edit activity dialog equal to true. So these are two attributes that are defined there. But if you look at this component that's inside the component that is a dialog, actually I have this VF. So if there's a current activity, so if there exists an object and edit activity dialog, this attribute is true, if both are true, then it opens the dialog. So what I'm changing these two variables such that this dialog will open. And I will describe the dialog in another video. Okay? So, but the main idea now is to see what is the behavior here, how behavior. So and I'm going to focus on one important thing is how do I communicate data between different components, okay? So the first thing is when this open, I may receive data from outside. Actually, it opens because the router sends me here. So the router can send me data. I'm not going to address this. Usually I can have parameters in the router and I can receive the parameters. Another way is that this page can access the store. I told you about the store and I will have a video about the store. And in the store is like the persistent data that is shared by all the views. So if I know that some data is there, I can get there. Another way to get data here is to read it from the server. So I can invoke from the server. So I can invoke, do these remote invocations in the server. So that's the way I fill the data here. So the first thing is that there's a predefined method called created that is invoked when the component is created. And what do I do here? Basically, look, I try to get the user ID from the store. So I go to the store and I have the user ID. Why do I know that I have the user ID in the store? Because when I log in, I store the information or I keep the information about the user that logged in. So I need it here and I get this information. Why do I need it? Because it's the parameter to ask the remote services get institution to get the institution of this member. So it's a member that is showing this. So it's the member of an institution that shows this, and I need to know which institution, to know which are the activities of the institution. So I get the institution here, and I do this remote invocation that I told you in that part. So I go to the server, and I get this information back. Okay? Now, when I use this await. Why I want to do this await? Because what I told you, these invocations are asynchronous, and I want to make them synchronous. So it means that I'm going to do actually two invocations, one to get the institution, another to get the teams, the available teams, and I need to do this invocation only after this one returned. the first one returned. So that's what I'm doing there. Okay. So what does it mean is when I start this component, I know that there I have the teams and I have the institution, and of course, as we have seen, the institution contains the activities. That's why then I show the activities of the institution. Okay. Another way, so that's one way to communicate with other components, or to fill my data from outside. Another way is basically through communication with my child components. So in this case, I have a dialog here. And what's interesting here is that how can I receive information? So when I open this guy, how can I receive information? This dialog here if I want. The idea is that basically you send events. So when this component may send events that the parent component receives. How this happen? Well, very simple. So when I define the component here, I have this v-on. When I say that when it sends a save activity event, I want to execute this behavior. When it sends a close activity dialog event, I execute this behavior. So look, when here I click there, actually I'm going to say close activity. I'm going to send the event close activity. What happens here? Why actually the dialog closes? It closes because what it does is the opposite. It just put the current activity to null and the dialog to false. Well, if you remember at the beginning, I told you when I put them to true, it opens. When I put them to false, it closes. And the same for the save dialog. So for the save event. So in this case, it's a bit more complex. What is happening here? So I just created an activity. So inside, so if I succeed, here I create an activity and I receive the activity. So the activity was created in the server. What I need to do, I need to associate the activity to my institution. So, or to the representation of the institution in the client side. So I go to these institution activities and basically what do? I add the activity. Okay. Good. And then I close it. So that's pretty much what I'm doing here. Okay. I'm doing something else here just out of curiosity, because actually I can use this button to two things, to create a new one or to edit the existing one. So if I'm editing existing one, actually the activity is already in this list. So what I do, I want to replace the activity in this list by the new one that was changed. So I'm basically filtering it and removing it here. Okay. So that when I put it here, that's what explains that part. Okay. I think that's pretty much what we need here.